I'm gonna look here. So the first few minutes of the video, I'm probably gonna be looking at myself, but I correct that and I start looking here, which I'm doing now. But I'm gonna edit and crop that out and put this in the beginning of the video so that you know going forward that about 3 minutes of the rest of this video, I'm looking at myself. But no, I'm not. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Thank you so much for continuing to come over here and click on these videos and watch me. If you don't know, this is the lifestyle, health, beauty, wellness, chronic illness channel. So this is basically a journey from COVID to chronic illness. From COVID to chronic illness. This is a video basically of how my long COVID turned into chronic illness. So, and put a finger up if you've ever been to the doctor for chronic chest pain or illnesses or body aches or headaches or shortness of breath or any of those types of symptoms, and your doctor said that it was probably anxiety. Put a finger up if you've been to the emergency room or with all kind of issues and your blood work came back normal or within range. Yeah. Put a finger up since ever since you first got sick or ever since you first got COVID, you saw a number of doctors, whether it be your primary care or a specialist, and they have all said that everything looks good and that you should be happy that everything comes back fine, and prescribed you a anti-anxiety medication. Can I get a drum roll here? You guessed it. Anxiety, panic attacks, panic disorder, depression, more anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder. Yeah, I could go on and on and on. Well, let's just go ahead and get to the story, right? Back in 2021, like so many of us, I got COVID. I had a really bad case of COVID. And I am very grateful and thankful that I did not die from COVID-19 and that I was able to make a full recovery. However, I have not been the same since I got COVID. And initially, doctors chalked it up to, it just taking a long time to kind of like heal from COVID, that it was pretty normal to have these exacerbated symptoms even weeks after, I tested negative. Pretty well known that it took a lot of people much longer time to get well after COVID. And then a couple months went by and blueberries. So months went by. I started having a lot of panic attacks. I started really just feeling anxious a lot more than normal. And those are some of the first signs that I knew that the effects of COVID on my body were more than just, a little lingering this or a little lingering that. I knew that something else was wrong. I was beginning to become very concerned about my mental health. It just was out of control, to be completely honest. But it wasn't just mental health. I was also feeling physically unwell. I just wasn't feeling right. And so, I went to the doctor, and that was like the first doctor that I saw. And they were like, oh yeah, it's called long COVID. Basically, you have, these symptoms, yada, yada, yada. I'm thinking, ain't no way in the world. I can't. My anxiety was through the roof. Then depression started to sit in. And something I never really had. I have been depressed before in the past, but I never suffered from depression, an ongoing, everyday, daily, constant battle. Work was becoming harder and harder every day to like get through without going home at the end of the day and just being like exhausted, mentally just unwell. I felt like I was seeing myself from the outside in or inside out or whatever, however that goes. I was watching myself, navigate throughout the day. Disassociation or depersonalization. I'm not sure if those are the same things or not, but so I saw a mental health, therapist, and was kind of like trying to talk through it. Around this time, I started having more physical symptoms, sinus issues. I started not being able to digest food properly. I was getting headaches, more body aches and pain, extreme shortness of breath. Or like kind of just like walking around the house. When I would sit down, I'd be like, but I was like trying to hold it in because I didn't want people to think I was fat, because I gained a lot of weight too. And just overall uncomfortable. I would get to the top of the stairs, y'all, because the house that I worked in, I was a nanny. So I would get to the top of the stairs, to put the kids down for a nap or go to get toys or do whatever upstairs. It was a nice flight of stairs. And when I would get to the top, I would be so winded. Sometimes I would see black spots. I would be feeling like if I don't sit down right now, I'm going to pass out, like right now. And I would have to sit there at the top of the steps on the top of the top step and be like, like that, right? Boom, 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 boom. I was like, this isn't normal. And I know it's not just because I'm fat, right? So schedule a cardiology visit. Tell them everything that's going on. She does blood work. She does this. She comes back. She says, hey, you've gained some weight since the last, whatever your last chart, whatever your last doctor that you saw, you gained quite a bit of weight. I had gained, like I said, about 20 pounds of weight. And so, yeah, she said that my blood work, pretty much everything came back within range. Although when I went back to look at that blood work, literally almost 2 years from the time that she took it, I noticed that a lot of my labs were low, even if they were within range. But that's a whole nother topic for discussion. January 2022 rolls around. I'm getting slowly worse as the months go by, as they begin to progress. It's getting harder and harder for me just to do normal activities. I'm super tired all the time. At the end of work, I'm just like exhausted, wiped out. I want to go out, hang out with some of my friends, hit some of the lounges up, do a little brunch, a little, fun activities. And it was becoming harder and harder for me to like recover the next day from like having a couple drinks, from eating a little, indulging or whatever in foods and stuff like that. I would just feel so terrible afterwards. And I was like, well, maybe I'm just getting older, like I'm in my 30s now. I probably just need to like lay off of some of that. So I did, but I noticed like no one else is really having all these issues like me. Like my friends seem to be doing just fine. My mental health is slowly declining. Finally, several months into 2022, I kept telling my now husband, because I think we were just dating at the time, I kept telling my husband, like, I am so stressed out. I'm like an unusually amount of stressed out. Like, this is not normal stress. I'm not able to like hear certain noises without going into extreme fight or flight. I'm not able to like drive in traffic anymore. It had me just like so on edge and anxious and just feeling physically ill to have to drive to and from work every day. My food and diet and how I felt after eating was like pretty awful. I wasn't really doing the best with it because like my cravings and things were like all over the place. I was eating all the wrong foods. I was like trying to fast and then trying to do like the OMAD diet, 1 meal a day, just trying all types of things to like try to get my body in order, trying some herbs, doing some different things. And I was just like, something else is wrong. I felt like my body was breaking down, but still I was able to like go to work still every day. I still was able to like, go out and, do social events, even though afterwards would have me feeling like wiped out, to the point where sometimes I would spend my whole weekend in bed just drained. December of 2022, I had kind of like hit a wall as far as like work was concerned. In other words, I was having what you call adrenaline dumps, and sometimes I would have them on the way to work, but then I had to like go into work and just be like hey, I'm here, and just act like everything was fine, because I nannied for a family of 4 at the time, and both really working parents that worked full-time jobs. They were pretty intense jobs that they needed to be, at work. I wasn't a stay-at-home mom, and the dad didn't have like a really lax job either. There was some flexibility, but for the most part, they needed me to be there. And I knew that, and that was like my job. I wanted to just kind of get better so I could get back to work and be feeling fine. I didn't really know how to communicate with them, because I really didn't know what was wrong. Because I'm like, they're gonna ask me like, well, what's wrong? I haven't been to the doctor. I don't know. They keep telling me it's anxiety. I know something is wrong, but I can't get them to tell me what it is. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just know something's wrong. Like, how do you communicate that to your employer? So I just kept in. I kept telling my husband, I was like, so I feel like I'm not gonna be able to maintain. You need like just some kind of like relief, and I need it quickly, or I'm gonna be like in the mental home, or the hospital, or both. So we ended up getting married. It was a beautiful wedding, as you can see here. And shortly after that, my life just went up in flames. I needed to go to a dentist. Pause. I had COVID again. I got COVID again. It was mild. I really wasn't that sick, but I had it. So that was like a double infection. I noticed that kind of like all of the symptoms kind of like revved up, kind of things kind of really start to pick up. So that's double infection. And we had a honeymoon coming up in just a couple weeks. And I needed to go to the dentist to get some work done. I had cracked this tooth trying to open a beer bottle. Just, that's a whole nother topic. Because like, really, Kelly? Why would I do that? So I needed to have it like pulled. I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna have it pulled now. And then we can go in and I can get a fake one, because I'm gonna get me a little fake tooth. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else doing it. So, right there. So, I went in to the dentist. I let him pull my tooth. When I got home, it did feel like maybe it just wasn't right, but I was like, whatever. I'd had work done before. I never had any issues. So it was in a lot of pain. The stuff wore off and I was in some pain. I took some pain meds and I went to sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night. All the lights were off and like my shirt was like drenched. It felt like drool. And it had got like in my shirt. And I was like, oh gosh, I can't believe I drooled that much. Like, how am I drooling so much from my tooth? So I had like gauze and stuff in there. I was like, I guess then the gauze was soaked, and it was just a lot going on right here. So I got up. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Got up and oh gosh, I turned on the light and all of this was red from blood. It wasn't saliva. It was blood. And something snapped in my brain. When I flipped that light on bright in the middle of the night and all this was covered in blood, I like freaked out. And my heart like clutched. It was just like, and I was like, oh God. And I looked in my mouth and there was a clot like this big in the inside of my mouth. And of course, I didn't know about liver clots or anything like that at the time. So I just freaked out because I already was in such an intense state of fight or flight that, or flight or fight, I can't remember which one it is, that seeing that my body didn't respond to that in a normal way. Maybe if I hadn't already been under so much stress and I wasn't already reacting to minor stressful situations in such an extreme way, in a normal scenario, I would have saw all that blood and just, like, uh-oh, something's not right. Let me call my dentist. But no, I went from like 0 to 100. I got a call, 911, like something, I'm dying. Obviously, I'm dying right now. So I called the dentist. He's like, calm down. Sometimes that happens. It may not have closed right. Come back in first thing in the morning. As a matter of fact, you can come before we open and I'll get you together. I was first person there. He rinsed me out, sucked all the clot and blood and stuff out, right? Got me back together. sewed me back up and sent me on my way. He was like, I just want to let you sit in here for a few minutes just to make sure, you know, that it doesn't start bleeding again and that everything's good. So I sat 15 minutes. Then he was like, you're good to go. Sent me home. Got back home. 5 minutes with me being home, the bleeding starts again. And I bled continuously out of my mouth for 5 days straight, 24 hours a day. So called him again. I'm like, hey, doc, you know, I'm bleeding, yada, yada, yada. He said, come back in. He looked at it good. He was trying to figure out why. He was like, do you have any bleeding issues? Have you ever been diagnosed with like a clotting disorder or a bleeding disorder? I'm like, no, not that I know of. He was like, okay, well, I'm gonna, you know, get in there again. If this happens again, you know, I'm gonna have to send you to an oral surgeon. Should be good for, you know, for a minute before it starts to bleed. And I wasn't out of there 15 minutes. I hadn't even made it home this time before back bleeding again. It was so stressful to have blood coming out of my mouth constantly for 24 hours. It's not like it just would bleed 3 or 4 hours at a day and then kind of like slow down. No, it was a constant trickle of blood coming out of my mouth in this jaw area 24 hours a day for 5 days. Finally, I got in to see a oral surgeon, and when you know it, the day that I went in to see him, he went in there and opened it up and looked at it real good. It was, you know, he was like, I don't think it's bleeding anymore. And I was like, just wait. And we waited and nothing came out, and we waited and it had stopped bleeding. And I was like, what? He was like, well, it's done bleeding now. And it was. Yeah. In those 5 days that my mouth was bleeding, I went to the emergency room. I had to reassure myself that I wasn't gonna bleed out. They gave me tranexamic acid. They gave me, I don't know, a couple other things, some gauze that they use on gunshot wounds and all kind of stuff. Didn't work. Wouldn't work. So that was odd, but it was indication to me that something was wrong with my body. Like, everybody kept shrugging it off. It was like, those things just happen sometimes. But you know what? I want to say this. When you know your body well, like I do, when you're in tune with your body, when you take care of your body and you are in tune with it and you know what's going on with yourself, you know when something is wrong. And this goes for all you guys out there. Trust your bodily instincts. Trust that you know your body more than anybody else, more than any other doctor. I don't care what they say, you know your body. Because like right after that dentist visit, everything tripled. And it was just harder for me to just like walk then. It was harder. I started having vertigo, dizziness, nausea, lightheadedness, just this overall sickly ill feeling that I couldn't get rid of. And I was just, and everybody kept saying, you know, it sounds like you're really stressed out and anxious. Yeah, because I'm stressed out because I don't feel well. And you guys keep telling me it's anxiety. And you know, they tried to give me anti-anxiety medication. Anything I took, I would have some kind of like weird reaction to it. And of course, they thought that I was being a hypochondriac. And I'm just like, no, guys, I promise you. Well, what kind of reactions are you having? And I'd explain it to, well, that kind of sounds like maybe you're having anxiety towards the medication. And I'm just like, I could have strangled the next person that said something about anxiety, So I'm on the honeymoon, struggling to do anything, struggling to have fun, can't drink. Seems like everything I'm eating is making me sick or making my heart race, making me flush, making me feel dizzy and lightheaded. We went to the Bahamas for part of our honeymoon, and we went to the resort there. Cool, we bought like the whole, package where you can go and do the whole resort and the slides and the rides. Couldn't even get up the steps good. We get to the top of halfway to the top of the steps, and I'd have to take a break. Couldn't stand for a long period of time. All the food was just like, ugh. Any alcoholic beverage I had was just like, my body was instantly reacting to it. I just didn't enjoy myself. And it sucked because I know my husband was trying his best to understand, but he didn't get it. He just thought it was anxiety too. And I'm like, what the heck do I have to be so anxious about? I just got married, to the man of my dreams. I'm super happy. You know what I'm saying? It's not anxiety. There's something wrong with me. Nobody's listening to me. I can smile about it now, but at the time it was very frightening. And I started to actually develop real anxiety behind the situation. I started to Google symptoms. I'm gonna find out what's wrong. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. That didn't help. Googling stuff is the worst thing that you could ever do. So here is a list of all of the things that I thought I had based off of my symptoms. So again, my symptoms was chest pain, center of the chest, sharp pain, top of the chest, all of that radiating pain, nausea, extreme dizziness, and vertigo, feeling like I couldn't stand up and be upright for long periods of time. Walking back and forth caused extreme shortness of breath. Any serious physical activity like working out or running or doing anything like dancing was causing extreme tachycardia, which is extreme, high heart rates. I could feel it. And at that time, I wasn't wearing a tracker. I just could feel it. And I knew that it was high. Food, not digesting it well, extreme like burping, like a type of burps, indigestion, burning and stuff in my throat, and that comes up, heartburn and stuff like that. I was having breathing problems. I was wheezing, couldn't see straight. My vision and stuff was going out. Really sad, depressed, anxious, fight or flight symptoms, panic attacks that would last for hours. These were lasting 2 and 3, 4 hours of extreme panic and anxiety. Oftentimes while I was alone and unable, a few times while I was at work and just had to like kind of just get through it. And then those anxiety attacks started turning into like full body physical attacks where I would like shake and I would like convulse. My body would almost that feeling you get where you get too cold and you get a chill all over my body. And I was tensing up. My muscles were tensing. Felt like I was like dislocating certain parts of my body. And these are all things that I Googled intensely. Like I went through the ringer looking up all of these symptoms for each of these diseases, the possibilities that I may have it, symptoms to look for, warning signs days before, just everything, right? The comorbidities of these illnesses, the chances of survival, just you name it, just all the wrong things. I was just looking up all the wrong things because it was just adding fuel to the anxious fire. So name a symptom, I had it. So Google told me that it could be a heart attack. Of course, a heart attack. Diabetes, multiple sclerosis, a TIA or a stroke, basically transient ischemic attack, or just a regular stroke, a nervous breakdown, ectopic pregnancy, because that was also a symptom that I forgot to add. My cycles were becoming unruly, unmanageable, debilitating in all shape, form, or fashion. They were much longer than usual. Lots of pain. Each cramp I would get pre-syncope, which is passing out. But I would get like the pre-version of it. I would never pass out, but I'd be this close to unconsciousness when I would get cramping. That was terrible. So pregnancy, I ruled that out. Ectopic pregnancy, I ruled that out. Meningitis, definitely thought I had meningitis there for about a week. Was convinced that's what it was because I had intense pain here, which now I know is called coat hanger pain. It was severe. It was severe. COVID, thought I had COVID again, like a super bug version of it, like had morphed together and attacked me again. Blood clot, for sure, was convinced that I had one in my leg, in my chest, in my leg, brain aneurysm, all of the worst possible scenarios, cancer of all forms of cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, stomach cancer. At one point I was thinking like, can you have heart cancer? Is that a thing? I never heard anybody talk about heart cancer. So I probably have it. Like that's where I was at in this part of the journey. I was convinced I had every single illness imaginable. Past the honeymoon, we're now home and living together. This is around, April, and I have now switched jobs, and I left my main job that I'd had about 3 years, that family, and that was really traumatic. I got with a new family, and unfortunately that didn't work out. The mother passed away, so I found a new, and that was extremely traumatic. Under the situations under which she passed away were just really unfortunate. And so I found another family. And this was probably April still, right around April. And I found another family because I kept trying to work, because I kept telling myself, well, you know what? They haven't found anything. You've been to the emergency room, which we'll get into this, so many times. You've been to the doctor this many times. Maybe it is anxiety. So just push through and work through. And I convinced myself that I had anxiety. I convinced myself so well that it was anxiety that I started a website dedicated to all of those people out there who were hypochondriacs, or dealing with psychosomatic symptoms, or dealing with extreme forms of anxiety, having physical manifestations of stress and anxiety, because I was like, this has to be what's wrong with me. I'm getting worse because I'm not actually dealing with anxiety. So let me try to do that. I created a website. I got into therapy. I was seeing a therapist. She was dedicated. I was going to take this medication and I was going to get better. And I found another job because I wanted to work. They hired me. Twin boys. Went to work. The first day, pretty much passed out with the kid in my arms. I was so sick that day at work. I mean, and they didn't believe in AC till the early May, around that time frame. So it was hot. They didn't have AC on that day. Feeling terrible, absolutely terrible. Thinking it was anxiety. Like, okay, I'm just gonna drink a lot of water and eat this avocado and drink more water and eat these blueberries and try to avoid, anything unhealthy, and I can get through this. And the first day I was holding the kid, and I was so lightheaded, I was so dizzy. I was just trying to tell myself I could just get through this, and boom, fell over holding the kid. 10 years working with children, never once dropped a baby, never once fell over with one, never once did anything dangerous on the job with the kids in over 10 years. And I knew then, I was like, I couldn't even barely get myself up off the ground, let alone the baby. It was awful. Yeah, I left out of there like, thank you, okay, yes, so sorry. Like, I left out walking, crying, calling my husband, like, because I wasn't driving at the time. And I just sold my car or whatever. He sent me an Uber, and I was like, something is wrong. Something is wrong with me, and nobody is listening. It is not anxiety. I've done everything right. Like, why is nobody listening to me? And that was the last day that I went back to work. I have been unable to physically work since then. And I came home that day. The Uber ride there, I went into a massive adrenaline dump. I had been flushing my body with water. No go, because I needed electrolytes and I didn't know it at the time. So I didn't have any salt and stuff in my body, didn't have any electrolytes. I was just making everything worse. Went into this full-blown, like, massive adrenaline dump. Sugar dropped, crashed, everything. He was trying to calm me down. I said, can you just stop by here in the CVS, there was EMS drivers and on their break. And I got out the truck, and I must have been looking crazy because he was like, I went in the store and he was like, oh, do you need medical attention? And I was like, it was like tears streaming down. They checked me out and everything, and vitals were off. They were off. He asked me if I wanted to go to the emergency room, but he was like, they're off. He was like, but it's nothing. Like, they put the EKG in on me. He was like, it's nothing that I can say is, life-threatening right now, but if you want to go, I'll take you. Your vitals are high. Your heart rate is really high. Your pressure is a little low. So we could get you checked out. I was like, but no heart attack or nothing? He was like, no, not from, they did the whole full one, the little one, and then they did the full 12 liter, whatever, I think. I guess it's just anxiety or whatever, I guess. So he talked to me, calmed me down. The Uber driver waited and checked on me. And so, yeah, I started this journey of scheduling doctor's appointments. But from April 2022 until 3 months ago, I had 31 visits to a medical provider in the form of 12 emergency room visits. I saw 2 different cardiologists at different times, right? I saw a neurologist. I saw a gastroenterologist, 2 of them. I went to urgent care 3 times. I saw an oncologist. I saw my primary care doctor 3 or 4 times. I saw a gynecologist. I saw a pulmonologist. I saw a hematologist. Yeah, not to mention the emergency room visits where I had CT scans, I had MRIs. Finally, and I was just getting worse. I was just getting worse. It was not getting any better. I was getting worse. Till one of these visits, I saw a doctor named Dr. Irwin in Atlanta at Kenneth Stone Hospital. And he looked at me and he said, you know, a lot of your labs and things have come back good, which is good. We want that. He said, but clearly you're unwell. He was like, so I'm not going to just say it's anxiety and stuff, which you probably are having anxiety. But I think the reason why that you're having a lot of anxiety is because you're having these physical symptoms. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. And he said these magic words. I think you have something called dysautonomia, specifically POTS. And he began to describe to me what dysautonomia is and what POTS is. And dysautonomia has many illnesses or subset of illnesses under the umbrella. But one thing that I was suffering from for sure was something called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS. Another issue that I was having, MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, some hypermobility issues, so hypermobility spectrum disorder. Dysautonomia is basically dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. So the A and S. And the autonomic nervous system, we know, is responsible for all of the daily functions of the body that you don't have to think about, right? So I think about raising my arm, I raise my arm, but I don't think about making my heart beat. It just beats on its own. I don't think about, my stomach digesting food. It does that. I don't think about my brain sending signals and stuff like that to the places that it needs to go. It just happens. My nervous system was fried. Ooh, wee. And it was like, finally, I have something that fits everything. And I found this Facebook group online. And once I found this group, I was like, I found my people. I found my tribe. I'm not crazy. I'm not having anxiety issues. Well, I mean, I was, but that wasn't the root cause. There was actually something wrong that I could put a name on, that I could put a finger on. And it's like, I felt empowered to help myself get better. Now that I know what's wrong, I can fix it. That was my instant thought. I was like, I can't help myself get better if I don't know what it is. But once I figured out what this could be, I can get better. I can fix it. If you know what's wrong, you can fix it, right? Okay, I can work with this. He referred me to Dr. Howard J. Snapper here in Atlanta. Woodstock actually is where he's located right now. And he is a cardiologist, but he's spent the last several years, specializing in dysautonomic illnesses, specifically postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome and all of its many comorbidities. So when I started mentioning all of these issues that I was having, he was like, yep, makes sense. Yeah. And is this happening? And I was like, yep. He was like, yeah. And I bet you feel that. And I'm like, yeah. He was like, yeah. And what about this? I'm like, oh my God, yes. And everything kind of just fell into place. And it was so validating, so reassuring to finally get a serious diagnosis, because I haven't even gotten into all of the things that happened physically to me from the time that I got sick until now. It got pretty bad for a while. I mostly kind of just wanted to tell the story of how I got here and how it took forever. And the crazy thing is, once I started feeling bad, I didn't let up. I mean, I spent every waking hour researching, reading, pulling up journals, medical journals, reading stuff off the internet, pulling up old documents and PDF files of other doctors, researchers, learning about how the body works, how the nervous system works. But if you look at my chart prior to me getting sick until now. There's just like my routine, you know, female visit, my routine, you know, annual wellness. So all of a sudden I had like yearly visits, and I went from yearly visits to 32 freaking visits within 6 months. And you would have thought that they would have said, okay, well, something must be wrong with her. It's not like she has years of paperwork documenting, you know, this hypochondriac issue or whatever. But no, they don't. They want to tell you that you're crazy, and give you medication for it and send you home, because if you don't fit into this box, I don't want to, they wash their hands of you. Too many symptoms, you begin to become a red flag when they see you walk into the office. Doctors very much like to just be able to figure out what it is that's wrong with you. And if they can't figure out what's wrong with you, usually their egos prevent them from treating you and listening to what's wrong with you and looking at the full body picture. Hey guys, so it's me. Several days later, I wasn't able to finish the video. Then a couple of things happened. One being I just ran out of energy, or ran out of spoons. And that's a term that we use in the chronic illness community. When you get a chance, look up spoon theory, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, also then I went into like a huge full week flare, and it just wasn't a really good time for me to finish the video. So I'm feeling a little bit better, a lot actually better than I was then. And so I'm just gonna finish it up real quick. And towards the end, I was talking about the crazy part of the craziest thing was that once I found out that I was sick, I went hard, basically, without let up, back-to-back doctor's appointment, researching every single thing I could, joining all these groups, all of these forums, trying to get to a diagnosis. And I arrived at one much sooner, and I really want to emphasize much sooner than the average person with my chronic illness condition and chronic illnesses in general. The average diagnostic or diagnosis time frame from onset of symptoms until diagnosis is about 3 to 5 years for the average dysautonomia patient.
Sorry guys, I meant to say the average diagnostic time is about 2 to 3 years, although it has actually taken several people around 3 to 5 years to actually be diagnosed.
The average POTS patient, I don't really know the statistics on MCAS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or hypermobility spectrum disorders, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it's probably about the same length of time, and that is unacceptable. It should not take that long to get to a diagnosis when people are presenting with such extreme symptoms. Even if the normal CBC and the heart workup that a person may or may not get comes back as normal or low but within range, more should be done, like more testing should be done. It was a wild ride. I'm glad I was able to share that with you. I will be posting more videos about the specifics of each one of those illnesses. Again, those are POTS, MCAS, and suspected hypermobility EDS, but until my genetics testing comes back, for now we're labeling it as hypermobility spectrum disorder. And how they all work together, plus a lot of the tips and tricks and helpful information that I've learned that got me out of the bed, that got me up and moving around, that got me able to get through most of my day better. Because I can't say that I'm fine now. Just because I got a diagnosis doesn't mean that now I got medication and I'm fine. Unfortunately, that doesn't work for a lot of chronic illnesses. So getting the diagnosis was 100% helpful. Did it solve my problems? Did it cure anything? Absolutely not. But it made it easier for me to start managing my symptoms. I've learned so much. I'm still learning, and I'm not gonna give up. I keep adjusting my hat because I'm having a really bad headache, actually. But sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So, don't judge me. A chronic illness girl has got to do what a chronic illness girl got to, you know what I'm trying to say. Gotta do. Okay? Stay tuned. More videos coming, I promise. And I really appreciate you guys watching and tuning in to this video. Until next video, peace. Okay, do I have it on? Maybe I don't have it on. I definitely don't remember what I was saying. You smell something?
It's not too strong for you? No?
It's not even hot. It's LEDs. I put these twists in the other day. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can't see. Is this crooked? It's crooked. I guess I should be looking there. Oh gosh, okay. Crooked. Perfect. Testing, 1, 2. I don't think these actually work.